Howdy y'all. My name's Aaron Cavley. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the further adventures of Russell Miranda, gunslinger out on his first mission. So in our last episode, they had been assigned to go to the town of Bone Ridge and had just passed through the baby forest, and their old friend, or Russell's old friend, Levi Meyer, had set a little trap in his saddlebags that had set the horse running, and he had been hurt. I've got him, reduce the size there. Got him down there. I'm going to keep him, even though technically with the rules of TriCube, you know, when you start a new session, you're supposed to get all your resolve back. But I think in the sake, or for the sake of making what happened last time relevant, I'm going to make him wait till he gets to a good spot to where he could rest, or maybe another scene break. And so because he lost one resolve when he couldn't get control of his horse and fell off, got knocked off. And since I not having a lot of luck with this deck, I'm going to reshuffle it several times. I mean, it works fine. I just seem to get a lot of face cards, so which makes it somewhat hard sometimes to set a scene if it wants you to do all this fancy stuff when you don't have any threads going yet. So, and then I just put a little card down there so I can remember that Irving Lowry, his buddy, is with him. All right. So they've just cleared the baby forest. They're heading east this way. And let's start off with a scene. See if there's anything going on here. Okay, so a standard brawny challenge. Okay, I'm going to use my solo. See what kind of encounter we get. I'm going to use the solo rules. Okay, so a 4-1. I'm going to use the TriCube solo rules and generate an encounter. We're in a wilderness area. So we'll figure out what the scene is, but let's kind of see what's going on. Wilderness travel. Wilderness event. 4-1 is what I rolled. Rolling log or a boulder. All right, well, that's obviously out in the middle of nowhere. Probably not on the plains. Probably not going to see that. Let's see. What about a 1-4? Circling vultures. Okay. Yeah, with the roll, sometimes when the random just doesn't make sense. If they were in the mountains or something, even if they were still in the forest, maybe, because when I think of that, I either think that there's a trap or an avalanche of some kind. In this case, I don't think, since they're kind of on an open plains, they've already gone through the forest. So I'm going to do a flip on that, which is one way to, adjust the roll. And we're going to see some circling vultures. So Irving pulls up short. They're not riding very fast anyway. Pulls up short, and he says, "Well, look on over there." And Russell says, "Yeah, I saw him. Think we should go check him out?" "I don't really think so. They're kind of right in front of us." Irving's nodding his head, indicating that he does kind of want to go check it out. And Russell, he's trying to be the grown up, but he's kind of curious too. He's spent time outside the city before, but usually with his parents or usually with some kind of work party or in his training group because, in the baby forest, that's where the gunslingers train and use for um, exercises, military exercises, things like that. So they Russell says, all right, let's go." And so they go riding on. Let's see what. Okay, if it's so it's vultures circling, so it's probably somebody or something that's um, about is dying or dead. Let's do a roll, and we'll just use wilderness folk. Let's just see what the chart gives us here. Okay, 55. Scouts or raiders? You know what I think? I think it's scouts and raiders. I think I'll say one or two at scouts, which would imply friendlies of some sort. Three or four it's raiders, so bad guys, and on five or six it's both, like they're still shooting out. All right. So the vultures are already circling, so maybe they've already had the shootout. Of course, on the plains, maybe probably would have heard the shootout unless it's been kind of going on, or maybe they have heard them. Let's see. So on a five or a six, there's still some active fighting going on between the scouts, which will be some kind of outriders. Um, I'm not going to say gunslingers because all the gunslingers had kind of been gathered on their mission. So we'll say these are maybe local deputies or, like I said, outriders from Gilead or someplace local. And in 1 through 4, the the battle is pretty much already over, and the vultures are descending. All right. So the boys uh, trot along, and as they get closer, they over a knoll, they see that there are actually some more vultures, and they're starting to circle down, and some are on the ground. And we're going to take a look. Let's see what will be. Let's see what kind of site we're at. I really like this Tricube Tail solo chart. I've got a couple of them printed out. They're just because I have a lot of different oracles, but this one's just it has a lot of stuff in those few pages, and it's pretty concise and has a good variety. All right, 5-3. We'll see what kind of feature is there. Okay, a bridge. That sounds perfect. Bridges are always good places to die on, right? One bridge too far. So they come riding along. They top this knoll, this hill. We'll zoom in to our area. Okay, so there's no heading straight east. There's no major river on the map, so we'll say it's some kind of ravine. Maybe it's a dry gully, something that they put a bridge up long ago for moving cattle. And as they approach, they see that there are bodies around, and they pull up short. There's a couple dead horses. There's a looks like there's a wagon that had been destroyed somehow. Some kind of, what do they call those? A Conestoga wagon, the old covered wagons, maybe something like that that's been destroyed. And so they come through, and as they get closer, they can see that there are some of the people on the ground that are dead. They see one or two of them that have like badges, the old 5-star badge type thing, that show that they are from a posse from a local town. They don't know where they're from. They don't know who they are. They don't recognize them. And along the bridge, the wagon is actually blocking the bridge. Someone had set it up, and as they explore, they look around the bridge. They see that there are ruffian-looking people on that bridge who have been shot. Uh, and remember, a lot of their weapons are, unless you're a gunslinger, a lot of the weapons are old school. So it looks like maybe one or two of them might have had an old pistol or something, but a lot of the fighting, there's spears, there's bows and arrows, and they use crossbows. But they look around, and there's some rough looking characters that are on the bridge dead, and as they get close, Irving is kicking the vultures away. Filthy creatures, get away. Let's see. I'm gonna say it's unlikely that anyone's still alive, just because they probably would have heard the battle and everything. So, and if both sides kind of got wiped out, it looks like 5 or 6. Oh, okay. 5 or 6. There's someone still alive. At least one person still alive, and we'll say they probably would have finished each other off. Um, Actually, we'll do the same thing. 1 or 2, the good guys. It's a good guy that's alive. 3 or 4, it's one of the bad guys, the raiders. And 5 or 6, there's 1 or 2 on each side. Okay. Let's see, and I'm going to see how bad of a shape he's in. The higher the roll, the worse shape he's in. Okay, so he's in pretty bad shape. He's you can barely move. So they get off their horses once they kind of survey the scene, and they notice that one guy, he's curled up next to this wagon that's blocking the bridge, and he's got he's trying to hide. He's trying to look like he's dead, but they both can see that that he has moved. His eyes have moved. He's not doing a very good job hiding, and they can tell that he doesn't look like the posse. They look a little more like respectable tradesmen and deputies, duly deputized people. So they draw their irons, and they pull their and lay them towards him. And Irving says, "What happened here?" Uh, and the man coughs, saying he's got severe wounds on him. It looks like he maybe has a crossbow bolt sticking out of his shoulder, and he's got some kind of cuts or stab wounds on his chest and neck, um, maybe where it got down to Bowie knives or spears. They attacked. Bandits attacked. They went off south. Yeah, south. Now, they don't know if he's a good liar or not when he's maybe not on death's doorstep, but completely unconvincing. And so they come close. They come closer, and with their guns ready still. And Russell, checking his hands, making sure the guy doesn't have any, holsters one of his pistols and picks him up, and um, shakes him, and he says, "You had better tell us what happened." Which is not really the same voice as he had last week, but hey, I'm not a professional. um, so I'm gonna put I'm gonna throw in I'm gonna make let me make it a twofold brawny challenge. I'm going to say that the first one, he's going to be intimidating. And I'm gonna use Brawny because he is intimidating to try to get this information out of him. And the guy's beat up pretty good, and these are gunslingers, so I'm gonna say it's easy. Good malarkey bedarkies. Okay, so he's Russell picks him up and he shakes him and he says, "You better talk. You better tell us. Who are you? Where are your raiders from? Where's your camp?" You know, those kind of things that a gunslinger would ask. But the guy he just expires. He has been trying to save himself from the clearing at the end of the path, but between the rough treatment and the fact that he's been out there bleeding for a while, he goes limp in um, his hands, in Russell's hand, and so Russell sets him down because he's not 100% sure what happened here. You know, there's some guys that look rough, and then there's some, more respectable folks, but he doesn't really know what happened, and so he doesn't want to treat the dead ill just yet. So they go and they search. Let's see. I'm gonna say probably not a good chance that they find something terribly interesting. But we'll do a dice six, five or six. They find something. Oh, okay, okay then. All right, we will return to our TriCube Tales solo PDF because it has a arcane items. Now I'm not gonna I'm not gonna make it arcane or anything, but it'll be kind of just to use what the item is that catches their attention because obviously they have gear, they have some horse tag. It looks like there's probably some of the horses have ridden on as he looks at the scans the trail and he searches the bodies, checks them to make sure that everyone is dead. The badges don't have any names on them or anything like that. Uh, nothing fancy like that. But as they are digging through the things and setting, deciding what to do with the bodies, they do find a 54. Ah, scroll. Scroll. All right, not being a particularly magic place, I'm going to say that scroll is it's actually it's a like a warrant, a wanted poster and a warrant with a sketch of somebody. Five or six, it's one of the people that, let's see, actually I wonder. Hmm. Count of five. One of the people that they see looks like it was them, of the rough folks. And on a six, it's actually they were heading to Bone Ridge too, hired by the parents. That's actually kind of a more interesting thing. So I'll say a four. It was they were there hunting these bandits, and a five or a six, they were actually on their way to Bone Ridge. Okay, so neither one. They were. It is a wanted poster and a warrant for somebody. They don't know who it is, and after a quick check, there's nothing here, and none of these people are on that wanted poster. So they line the body up. The body is up, and being, walking the line between looters and ghouls and practical gunslingers who might need need gear. They take some things that are useful. But they don't really have a lot of things that are useful. They've got some spears and knives and things like that, but they don't really want to. Nothing that they really want to take, because they have a couple. They have their own hand weapons, their own knives, and everything. Um, and if they were not pressed with their task, then they would probably see if they could figure out where these people were. But they're already going there, and they're supposed to be doing their gunslinger duty. That's their first mission. They don't want to slack off, and there's really nothing they can do here. So they line the bodies up, and um, now they have to. Uh, Russell turns to Irving and says, "Do you reckon we should bury him?" "Well, I don't know that we can just leave him out here for the vultures. It doesn't seem right. That's going to take a long time. There's a lot of people there." "Yeah." So they ponder, they kick around, and Irving comes up with the ideas like, "Well, we got the shovels. We'll uh, we'll make it a shallow grave, and then we can put the wagon. We can put the wagon over it. That'll kind of protect him from the vultures and wolves." Um, Russell, not really wanting to go and dig a big mass grave or leave these dead bodies, he he agrees. After all, Irving's been a gunslinger longer by a week or something. Uh, so they go and they dig that hole. They dig a shallow grave. Because the land is grassy, it's actually kind of hard, because all the um, I don't know how many people have tried to dig holes in grassland, but sometimes that grass really holds the soil together. So it takes them pretty much the rest of the day to do that. And now the next step, which will be the basis of the challenge, is to move the wagon. Because if they can't clear the bridge, it's going to be a long way around north or south that they're going to have to go. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an important bridge. So we're going to do brawny and a standard. So that's going to, since it's a standard, it's going to be a 5. Yeah, 5 or 6. And he's a brawny gunslinger. Okay. Two successes. I must have rolled one way and then the other, or something. But it recorded it as a 6, a 5, and a 4. So that one must have bounced or rolled, and it was being nice. Unlike me as a GM. That's a 1. That's a 1, gunslinger. Anyway, so they spend the rest of the evening, or the rest of the afternoon, and they do manage to get the wagon off the bridge and limp it over to the bodies, and kind of, or over to the shallow grave, and set it on top. They put the wagon over it, um, and kind of bust the wheels out. The wagon's already smashed anyway. It's not. It's designed more as debris. Well, actually, that wouldn't be true. If they were using it to block the bridge, it would have to be mobile. So it was set up for the group of the 5 or 6 bandits to be able to move it and flip it over so that they could get it back in place. But they're able to get the wagon next to it, and mostly with, I mean, Irving's no wimp, but he's probably the typical agile gunslinger, whereas Russell is beefy. But they get the wagon flipped over, and it covers most of the grave that they were able to make. And Russell looks around, and the vultures still circling overhead. They're a lot of them have landed nearby on some of the shrub trees, and they caw at them in protest, having their meal just lost. But Russell looks and says, let's ride on for a little bit. I don't want to camp by this charnel house." And as last, he puts the badges that he had collected, and he uh, sets them on the wagon in a row, because it looks like there's like one or two deputies, and then the rest of it was a posse of people who had been duly uh, deputized. Well, whoever finds, if they find it, they'll recognize their badges hopefully, and then they can do a more proper burial for their fathers. And so they ride on. Let's see. We will reveal this little area as it's kind of where they're headed. All right, so I went ahead and I put the bridge and Bone Ridge on there. I had to I had it spelled all as one word, and every time I read it, it came. I kept reading Bone Ridge, like a boner itch or something. But that's me. That's not you. But I still had to change it uh, because I am that way. Now, for some reason, my darn camera keeps freezing up on me. So I'll just use my icon. I'll just use my icon up there, and that's fine. Y'all are here for the gunslingers, not for me. So they go on and they cross the bridge, and they look for a good campsite. Okay. Anything interesting or dastardly happened during the night? Let's say unlikely. Yeah. So they ride on the next day, and they break camp, enjoy a morning cigarette. Of course, they're out traveling, so they're a little more scarce with those. Uh, Although Irving made sure that Russell brought his own, so he doesn't want to share too much. So they have their morning cigarettes, their morning smokes, and Russell takes a big puff, and well, if I'm right, if in what Felix said, we should be hitting Bone Ridge soon. In the distance, I mean, they've always been able to see the shaved mountains there, uh, just because they're pretty big. They've been able to see them on the horizon for a little time, but now they're getting closer. They're getting into the foothills of those mountains. They climb on their horses and continue riding west. The ground starts getting rougher as the morning progresses, and they find a small hut, and outside are a couple of an older couple who are tending their garden, and they look up at them, and they bow and give a traditional throat tap. There's actually there's some kind of protocol to it from the books. I don't remember what it is. It's like you did one thing if it was a lady, one if it was a man, but I don't remember. So they give them the proper throat tap greeting, and they, "Hail, gunslinger, how can we help you?" "We're looking for Bone Ridge." "Ah, yep, you're heading the right way. Just keep going. You'll find a an old mining path heading up that way. They use it for a road to bring down what they dig up. Most of the time they head it up. They take it up north towards the river. And then they float it down past Hemp Hill and Kingstown if they're heading all the way out to the lake. But if they're going to Gilead, thank you, sir. There's a, looks like there was a fight over at the bridge yonder. Looks like a posse of men fought some kind of bandits that had tried to ambush him. Looks like they killed each other. It's killing each other is what we do best out here in Midworld. They can say all they want about, begging your pardon, gunslinger. They can say all they want about our civility and holding to the old ways, but they're just as vicious as animals out here, as I suspect every man has been. Now, Henry, you just hush. Get back to your farming and weeding before you get us hanged. Oh, these young men ain't gonna hang us. They look fresh and bright-eyed, ready for the trail and adventure. They don't want to spend their time beating up a couple of old nags like us. But nonetheless, shut your mouth, Henry. Ugh. And he holds his hands up to the gunslinger and says, "You see what I've got to deal with?" Russell grins and gives him a tip of his hat, and they continue on towards Bone Ridge, towards the east, like he said. And true enough, like old Henry told them, they come to a road that leads up east to Bone Ridge. They take the, and of course by road it's just it's a path that's somewhat graveled up. It's not paved or anything like that. Although they do, as they come up a little ways, they do find a place where it looks like there's a rail, some kind of like a mining rail maybe, that comes down. They can up the side of the mountain. They can see Bone Ridge now, and it looks like there's a rail, probably for carrying the mine, the heavy wagons with the mine down the mountain. So they look at each other, the young gunslingers, and kick on their horses and head on up. So we will, let's see, we'll head on over. We'll switch our map. To Bone Ridge. They clomp along up the gravel path. Pause to look at the place. And well, let's see what it looks like. Let's take a peek at. We'll roll our solo. I think there's a yeah, there's a feature. Well, let's see. This might be a village instead. Okay, so I'm just gonna roll 2 dice. I'm gonna see which one's more interesting. I'll pick, because it's not really urban per se, but I will I'll use urban because on this chart that I'm looking at here, it shows that the urban locations could be a mining town. So we'll just roll that 2d6. See what the interesting feature is. Whoops, I meant 2d6. Start that over. All right, so a 6-1. That's a sewer or a subway. We'll go with subway. I think it would be interesting. Yeah, that sounds interesting if they their mine is actually, it goes through or into or starts from one of the old people's underground subways. I don't think they know. They don't see it from here, though. They do see the mine entrance, and it looks like it's just kind of built into. It looks like it's just dug out of the side of the hill. They don't see anything overt there, so that will be some kind of secret, maybe, to come later. But they do see the entrance to the mine, and they see the buildings and the tailings and people going through the mine. And it does have a street, the main street. It has the general store and those kind of western town kind of things. The gunslingers ride up, and the one of the workers at the mouth of the mine, he steps up, he creaks his back or stretches his back out and kind of beats the dust off of his hat. And as he's dipping the ladle out of the water barrel and pouring a little over his head, he looks and he sees the gunslingers on their horses. And they can't hear what he says at this point, but he he takes the ladle and he taps the guy who's a couple feet away, spilling the water on him. Looks like it almost starts some kind of fight until the first guy points to the gunslingers, and then the other guy that he was trying to get their attention, he starts staring, and then some of the other workers notice that they're staring, and now that the village knows that they're there, we'll go ahead and wrap it up, and we will create the next scene to see what's going on next time. So I hope you enjoyed it, and happy gaming.